Hello and welcome to the SpaceChem Tournament 2025, Round 8, ExaChem. It's a collaboration between Exapunk and SpaceChem. Exapunk is a coding game by Electronics in which you control exas and they execute machine commands and handle files. Most of the game is editing files and changing them depending on your goal. In this case, you start with a file containing a lot of high values, and for it to be less suspicious, you need to keep the sum of the values the same, but only have values of 75 or less. So you change everything to be 75 with the one last number, which is the remainder. Now, this puzzle only has a single reactor that you can use, which is like an exa, you can say. It's pretty simple, only 4 bonders and 1 fuser, 1 splitter and 1 sensor, because exas are pretty simple. If you want to do a lot of work, you need a lot of exas, just like in Exapunk. And what you do in this puzzle, you handle files, like in Exapunk. So you can see these Ember log files that look something like this. You have a row of sigmas for the header of the file, and then some stream of inputs, which are all greater than 26. Now the goal of the puzzle is to take this stream of atoms and make it so they're all only 25 and one less atom, which is the remainder of 25. The output here is for a full file, it's just because you need a specific output. You can't have a changing output in SpaceChem. So there's another verifying stream and a verifying reactor that checks everything. This might seem a bit complicated, and there weren't a lot of submissions, so let's start with the fun solution, which is a lot simpler than the rest. As you can see, it only has single row of reactors feeding one into each other. So, this fun solution is by Team Combustible Lemons, as is traditional with a single Waldo solution. It would have scored 498 million. Wow, that's a lot. I don't think we'll run it to completion, but we'll see. The metric in this puzzle was cycles times piped molecules, or the square root of piped molecules. So, this first reaction is very simple. First reactor is very simple. It just takes the file and inputs the atoms one at a time. It's in a weird order. It goes from the top to... If the file is right like this, it goes from the right to the left. The order of the atoms don't matter, because you only need the sum of the atoms. But generally it goes left to right, top to bottom. So the finished output also needs to be left to right, top to bottom. So fast reactor, very simple. Doing it with a single Waldo is trivial for anyone who can submit a solution to this puzzle. Second reactor takes the input. First it checks if it's an hydrogen and it splits immediately, then it goes here on a loop. It splits until there's only hydrogen remaining here, and the remainder goes over a fuser and fuses. Once there's an H, it's outputted and you take the remainder. Now, why is this generally bad? It takes a lot of cycles to do it, and the metric was cycles. So for a fun solution, a single Waldo is great, but you won't see anything this simple for competing solutions. This algorithm can work on any molecule of any size. It could even work on the sigmas if you wanted. No, actually not, because you can't fuse beyond 109. Pretty simple. I don't know why you sense for hydrogen 3 times in 3 separate locations. When it gets to a nitrogen, because you need to take the finished output, diffuse the remainder and bring it to the drop. So once to go from here and then once to go down. And when you're out of atoms, you need to input again. Let's watch it a bit until it reaches. No, it just takes a lot of cycles. So, let's watch what it does when it reaches the sigma. When it reaches the sigma, just stops it and outputs it. Yep. Next up, it's taking the hydrogen . Let's put a pause here. Dropping it over the fuser, and then after every hydrogen it fuses it, checks if it's 25, and if it isn't, drops over the fuser. 6, 7. When it's 25 it goes down and outputs. Very simple. This is obviously not cycles optimized. There are way faster ways to do something like this, but it's a fun solution, so it doesn't matter. And once we reach the sigma, which signifies the end of the file, it's 41,000 cycles. Whatever you have here on the fuser is the remainder, and it's the only atom which isn't 25. So before outputting the sigmas, you take the remainder and output it. And you know it's outputted first because that's how SpaceChem works. molecule that was dropped over the output zone will be outputted first. So nice little mechanic there. Next reactor, it's just, let's put a pause here, taking 25s and bonding them. Once it reaches 4, wait, let's do it from the beginning. Once it reaches 4, it does a blind grab and drops it back to bond a new line. Basically a printer. This is then ToughThought says output order depends on molecule age, not time of dropping. Age is the less it was interacted with, so if it was dropped later, it will be it will add smaller age. So yeah, I just wanted to simplify that a bit. Dropping doesn't affect that. Okay. Only bonding and fusing. So here when it's outputted, wait. Since it was just inputted and grabbed, it doesn't have an age. The last fusion was before the input of the token. So the age of the input of the token is when it was inputted, but the lithium is older, so it's outputted first. Yeah, wow, good to know. Okay, so when we reach the sigmas, the file is outputted above and the sigmas below. Yeah. They're then combined and outputted immediately afterwards. Why is there another logic here? Its position, because of how many atoms. Yeah, okay. So let's let it run a bit and see it with different molecules. Because it first grabs from the first row, then from the second row, and then from the third row. So the next time it will come here, still same, still 3 rows, still 3 rows. I swear there are sometimes less than 3 rows. Here we go. When there's only 1 row. Yeah. So it needs to grab it 1 row at a time so that it can make sure that it has the first row. And the verifier reactor, this is the programmer input, though you can't see it. Let's put pause here. And delete this pause. There's a lot of debonding and bonding because you can't know for sure the states that you get your file in. In the case of that there was lithium here, it can only has one bond, so after you fuse it you have to rebond it in here, and depending on how long the file is, then you need to, like they did in the last reactor, they need to take each file length differently. Let's look let's see how it looks when there's something like this. You don't fuse straight into the file, you need to fuse and then move the file one right and then the remainder inputted. Yeah, that's as simple as it gets when you only do it with a single Waldo. And this is a pretty simple solution, which makes it non-competitive. I'm not sure how much cycles it is, but I'm not going to run it to completion. Let's see. It should be... I can't see here. It should be fun solution 3 million cycles, a bit above. And how many piped molecules? That I could calculate it from the metric, though I don't really see a point. Okay, now let's start with the actual solutions for this puzzle. In fourth place, we have Lazy Comet with sunk cost fallacy. No pipe. I'm not sure what that references. YellowBunny says they had 23,000 piped molecules. Okay, so Lazy Comet solution. The first reactor, you can't really see it with this first input, but it fuses the last row of atoms in the file into the second row, and the second row into the first row if you can. Though I'm not sure that's legal. I don't know if Lazy Comet found that out. If you have 7 atoms here which are 26 each, the remainder is 117. So technically this could crash with an engineered input, though Lazy Comet is in last place and they probably didn't notice that it could crash, so we'll forgive him. all of the rest of the solutions are legal as far as I could see. I didn't say actually. This puzzle, in order to avoid just crazy precognition where all you do is sense for the first molecule and then fuse specifically in a single way, instead of trying to make it precognition hell, I made a rule that said that your solution needs to be able to handle any possible file that you can get, as long as you don't have like noble atoms that can bond to stuff and things like that. The reactor could crash. Rexkix asks again. Imagine that these 7 atoms were 25. That's a sum of 26, sorry. That's a sum of 182. So the remainder is 117 because the files can be a maximum of 299. So if you have 26, 26, 26, 26, 50, 26, 26, 26, 60, which is a valid input, then here it wouldn't fuse, and then crash here. Still, I think it can bigmangohead says it can crash in multiple ways. YellowBunny is right. It would crash differently because the 50 and the 25 would fuse and you will have an atom left behind. Yeah, that's also a way it could crash. Still, Lazy Comet got a score of he got 2.5 points out of 14, so I think we'll forgive him. So, this first reactor takes the 8 maximum atoms from the file and each atom is separated and then split twice. Right, let's look at it again. Actually, let's put pause here. Split once, dropped to move it out of the way. The remainder is split and then outputted. Once here and once here. And then split and output again. So each atom is split twice and dropped here and here. And once it reaches the sigma, red brings it down and outputs it. Rinse and repeat. This, I don't see any psi output in this, so I'm pretty sure there is no psi output. Next, let's put how many? Wait, this reactor also had some. No, just this reactor. There's here an extra arrow, and here an extra arrow, and here an extra arrow. Wow. Let's put a pause here and remove the pause here. So the elements you get, because they were split twice, they're a maximum of 28. 109 splits to 55 and then 28 maximum. So each element gets split 3 times in this reactor. 3 times takes a bit more maneuvering from the 2 reactors, from the 2 welders. But the results of the splits get evenly distributed between the psi output and the omega output. I won't go into too much detail about how it works here, but this flip-flop array makes sure that the first time red comes here, it splits 3 times, and then the second time it flips only 2 times, and the last time it splits only once. Very clever flip-flop array here. And blue is basically the helper to red in this reactor. The sigmas, let's watch the sigma handling. Oh, missed it. Missed it again. A bit slower. Here. Sigmas are just split into 2, and they're used to signify when you don't have any more outputs. Okay. Now the upper reactor or the lower reactor, well, let me see the write-up. I think it was the upper reactor. Okay. The upper reactor, let's put a pause here. It takes an input, grabs it and drops it here, so just because we are not going to see it, I'm not going to wait until this. Takes an input and drops it here, and then it puts again, so we have 2 inputs already on the fuser. Fuses, and then checks whether it's 20, 21, 23, 24. That's right, we have, starting with CR, SCTI, and SCTI, V, and CR. 21, 22, 23, 24. And the inputs you get are 1 to 4 because every atom is split 5 times. So again, pause here. Because the input is maximum of 4, it has to reach eventually 21 to 24, one of them. Let's see, 7, 9, 11, 12, 14, 16, 18, 19, here 21. 21 will be the most likely atom to come out of this because most atoms aren't 4, they'll be lower. So it just gets outputted. And after outputting, the next 2 inputs get each split twice into hydrogen. Then again we have 8, 10, 12, 14, 17, 19, 21 again. And then another 2, the next 2 inputs get split to hydrogen. Now, I haven't actually thought of a specific input that can crash it, but I assume there's a way to get 21 out of it and then 2 hydrogens to input from here. So eventually you don't have enough hydrogen? Maybe. Let's look at the next reactor. Let's remove the pause here. Let's put a pause here. Input from both sides. This is only hydrogen. Ah, wait, I forgot about the sigmas. Sigmas. Let's move the pause here. Once you get the 2 sigmas, they get split into the 2 streams as well to signify end of inputs. Okay. So 21 to 24 gets inputted from above and then fused and checked if it's 25. It isn't, so you input hydrogen until it is 25. When it's 25, it gets dropped here to create a stick of 25. Once you have a stick, with a blind grab, you can drop it. Now, wait. Let's return here. No. What was I waiting for? Here. Once you get an output which isn't 20 to 25, which happens, I forgot to show it here. Once you get the sigma from here, you just grab the fused output and drop it. Let's show it. Let's remove this. Put the pause back here. Actually, let's put the pause here. So I'll know for sure you get sigmas. No, wait. Missed it. Okay, so we get an SI, it's the last input, and then we get a sigma. Once we get a sigma, instead of dropping it here, you just take whatever remains and then output it. So there are three cases where you can get a sigma. Either when you're still building up to the 21 to 24, or when you take atoms to grind down to hydrogen. Okay, back here, where's the, let's remove this. Back here. One, two, three, four, 5. Once you get something that isn't 20 to 25, it will input a lot of hydrogen, and once you get sigma, you just split whatever remained. Split it as much as you can, though it's not only hydrogen. I think it dropped something else a while ago. What did it drop? Yeah, it dropped 9 and split and dropped it immediately. I'm not sure why, but everything else gets ground down to hydrogen as well. And then whatever remains of the 25 gets dropped. And repeat the process. I'm not sure if it's possible to not have enough hydrogen. Maybe. Now, in case where you input and there's a sigma from this reactor before the hydrogen, then you just take the hydrogen and fuse it as much as you can. And drop the sigmas down here. the hydrogen here gets, the reason you split it is because you could potentially have more than 25 in the hydrogen, I guess. Wait, let's remove the pause here. Put a pause here. The reason the first atom is outputted immediately is because it's used as a base to fuse into, and it can't possibly be greater than 25. And then it's from the second stream. This was the upper input, now the lower input, the second stream, which is basically the same thing but in reversed, mirrored. Exactly the same to make things faster. Yep, same thing but mirrored. And then these two streams get combined. Rexkix, notice the arrow. You take the remainder from both streams, which is it will both be it can't be more than 25 together, because it's something which is 25 or smaller. It's a maximum of 12 each remainder. So because you're combining two input streams, you have to grind down to hydrogen the rest. And you do it input by input. First the alpha input, then the beta input. One on B3. You're right. Lots of extra symbols. Not that it matters much when you have 800 symbols. Okay. So basically you take the ground down hydrogen and fuse it back to 25. And once you get the sigmas from both streams, you output them. Fuse from above, from below. Yep. And this reactor combines the two 25 streams. Let's put pause here and remove the, wait, there's a pause here. A2 also has an extra arrow. Good eyes. Yeah, arrows really don't matter when you can be 99.99% sure that nobody else has the same amount of cycles as you. Yeah. Let's put also a pause on blue because the Waldos are not synced. Blue blue has a lot of delay if it senses that there's a 25 here, because otherwise it would crash here when both Waldos try to bond minus here. Let's see if we can catch it happen. I don't see a situation where it happens, but I'm sure it does, or else LazyComet wouldn't do it. Anyway, now you have a stream of 25 from here, and from here you have 0 to 125. The remainder, F3, that's right. So you have B4, yep. So you have a stream of 25. Let's remove this. What's going on here? Once you reach 5, if you reach 5, you know that you need to do a second row. So blindly create a second row. Huh. I've never seen something like this. Of you need to create rows of 4, so you blindly grab when you reach 5. I guess that works. We missed the part where it reaches 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Blue finally inputs. Blue is slower because LazyComet says the array builder is slightly faster than the pass across, so he knows that he has all the all the atomic mass for the file in the reactor when he gets the flag sigma. I believe him. You need the 2 ponders to bond the 2 sigmas. No, wait, sorry. Let's put pause. Remove this pause and put pause here. So, first sigma, then you get 0 or 125 and output it. Okay, you don't even bond it. Then the remainder and also output it. Then you need the last two bonders to create the sigma stick and output it. Only then do you grab the file and output it in the omega output. Now these two outputs lead to the same reactor, in which you need to know where your last 25 is. You have four options. Either you have 1, 3, 2, 3 like this, 3, or it's a full row. You need to drop it so that you'll bond straight to it. So, wait, let's remove the pause here. Come here. Another arrow. Another arrow here. Where can you put the pause? Here. Or actually, not here. I2, I2. Here and blue inputs here. So let's put here a pause. Okay. So blue waits until you get a sigma, and red finishes up with the remainders. And this part here also has I'm not sure when it reaches this part. Let's see another example. When you have a full row, blue drops it instead of the first row. It drops it here so you can bond it to the first and create a new row. In cases like this, it needs to go down, and then depending on the where you get the 25, you need to drop it in the first row. You need to grab the leftmost column of the file. Let's watch more examples. Bond here, drop, drop. Basically, if you YellowBunny says the flip-flop could be moved down and the sensor into the corner, removing 2 more arrows. What flip-flop? This flip-flop? I'm not sure I follow, but sure. Okay, so basically if you get a full row from the new from the remainders, then you know that you're grabbing the rightmost molecule, and then when you come here, you know that you're holding it in the second row, so you drop an output. If you don't finish a full row, like here, then you reach this sensor, and then using these 3 sensors you know to drop it in the right location so that you later grab the leftmost column and to drop it here. Now this is an extremely simple reactor that all it does is just bonds the atoms and makes the output in the correct way for the given verify reactor for the puzzle. Let's remove the pauses here, this pause and this pause, and put a pause here. It bonds here, bonds everything to the header, flips twice and drops. Lazy Comet says he got lazy and needed a reactor to fix the bonds because he didn't want to deal with making his own verification reactor this late into the night. This coming from Lazy Comet, it makes sense. Though any solution that takes more than 800 symbols is dedication. So maybe not. This is the given verification reactor that was given with the puzzle. It's not very optimized, so players could, if they wanted, do something better. Lazy Comet decided not to. It's pretty simple. This is the finished molecule. If SpaceChem would support changeable outputs, then this would have been accepted. But since it isn't, all this reactor does is what we've seen in the fun solution. It bonds a little, fuses a little, and makes sure that you get a full file at the end. That's it for the Lazy Comet solution. Let's see how long it takes to run. 202,000 cycles, and how many piped molecules? That was almost 19,000 piped molecules. For a metric score of 28 million. Next up is Team Combustible Lemons, which is brookieoz, YellowBunny and bigmangohead, with their solution Frankenmerge. Let's look at their write-up as well. Okay. First reactor is extremely simple. You take the input, you split it into individual atoms. No clever fusing, no sensing, just 3 rows of output. And bond minus hammering. Next reactor you take the first atom and put it over the fuser. The second atom gets split and fused into it. Now I know what you're thinking. what if it's more than 109 and it doesn't fuse? Well, in this case, red has a blind grab here and it grabs it out of the way. And again, you take whatever was left here and fuse it into this atom. Basically, you fuse as much as you can until you can't fuse anymore. We'll see in a bit what happens when you can't fuse. It won't happen this time. This time you get both first inputs get fused together. And dropped eventually. No, it isn't dropped. You continue to fuse into it until you have something bigger. So you take another input and you try to fuse into it. It doesn't work. In that case, once you drop it, red grabs whatever wasn't fused and tries to fuse something bigger into it. It worked. So you continue. You try to fuse something smaller into it. It works, sorry. Once you try to fuse something and it doesn't work, then you fuse what didn't work back into the rest. Now we know the rest isn't larger than 108 because it just got smaller and fused into this ball here. So we can fuse into it. We continue to try to fuse into it for I think 7 times or 6 times until you're sure that what you grab is the rest. 7 times. Yep, because 2 to the power of 7 is 128, so any atom split 7 times gets 1. Bigmangohead, they said they do it 8 times because they never fix the flip-flop counters. Well, you lost a few cycles here. In their defense, they haven't really had enough time to work on it, or not in their defense, they've delayed solving the puzzle until pretty late into the deadline. bigmangohead says it's not the bottleneck, so it doesn't really matter, it's just latency. Okay. So you can be sure that whatever you got here reaches 109 because you input stuff until you can't input anymore, and then you split it and fuse whatever can get into it. So you must get to 109 eventually. And whatever is left is put back here to fuse more stuff into it until we reach 109 again. Until eventually, let's put a pause here, I think, until eventually you reach the sigma, sense for the sigma, and then you just output whatever you had left to the top reactor. So, bottom reactor gets 109 ohms and then 2 sigmas as for signaling. Top reactor gets the remainder and 2 sigmas. and this is already red starting again with the next file. Let's start with reactor 3, which is this. So 109 equals 100 plus 9. Would you believe it? Let's put pause here. So if you grab 109 and split it, you know for sure what you're getting. You get 55 plus 27 plus 14 plus 7 plus 3. 3 can split to 2 and 1, and then if you grab the 7 and fuse the 2, you get 9, and the rest is 100. 9 gets sent down, the rest is fused together back into 100. Pretty simple, and you can already tell what 100 is going to do. Let's remove the pause here, or actually let's do it until we get sigma. Once you get sigma, you split it to both outputs to signal that you're finished. Okay, reactor 4 is this, I think? Yeah. This takes the 9 and this is the remainder from reactor 1. So all it does is merges it. No need even for two Waldos. Let's put a pause here and remove the pause here. All it does is takes the 9 from above until you reach a sigma. Once you reach a sigma, you drop it here. Then you take the remainder and drop it as well. And until you reach a sigma. Once you reach a sigma, you bond it and you output 3 sigmas. Just merge. Not sure. I think it's just a copy of the reactor from the Waldo solution. Maybe. That's why they did it in a single Waldo. Red arrow in D1. That's right. Ah. Shame. Anyway, all it does is merge. It's a copy of a later reactor that isn't this solution. Ah, okay. Ah, in this solution. So, reactor 6, no, this is reactor 5, that takes from the upper input the 100, and from the lower input it takes the remainder and 9s. 9 and the remainders first. So, I'm going to cheat a little and actually change the reactor layout, so I can put pause here and remove this pause. 100 gets split once and dropped. That's it. Then again, and with sigma it gets down. The remainder just gets sent upwards, and the sigma gets bonded and sent. Just a merger as well. Let's undo. Where was I? Next up, this reactor, which let's put pause here. Wait, let me be reminded of what this does. YellowBunny says at this point we have entered a different solution that could also just be fueled by the very first reactor. Theoretically, all the first reactors did was make the input nice to handle for this reactor and forward, so that it takes less cycles. But technically, this reactor could handle any input. This reactor, if it gets 50, it splits it once and drops the 25s in this cell. The drop placement is important. Any 50 that it gets split once and dropped here by the two Waldors. If it gets something that isn't 50, like 9 for example, then it grinds them down to hydrogen, and any hydrogen is dropped in this corner. Once you have hydrogen here, you must also have hydrogen here, because it has to be helium split. So you drop 2 hydrogen each time. Drop, drop. Or actually, maybe sometimes you might get hydrogen here, and then if you only have a single hydrogen, you input a new input. So basically, something that isn't 50, or we'll see in a moment other possible inputs, gets ground down to hydrogen. That was 60. 60 gets 2 out of it each time, so now it's 58. Eventually it will reach 50, and then it will output 25. And anything that is bigger than 50 basically gets reduced by 2 each time, until eventually you get either 50 and you drop out 2 25, or you get 49, sorry, and then you drop 25 and 24. So this is 50, again, something we've seen, 9 we've seen. Let's wait for something different. 100, wait, I missed it. $100 is tested and split twice, so you get 25 each time, and then the 50 is dropped here. and then sigma just bring there back. Let's see, it's produced at 24, here, 21. 21 will get 2 removed out of it each time until you get here, you're left with 49, which gets split, but it also outputs 24 instead of just 25. Either way, anything that is smaller than 50 gets ground down to hydrogen. Anything that is bigger than 50 drops out at least 125 and maybe 24. And 100 also drops 50 sometimes. And 99 also drops 49. And sometimes 48. It doesn't really matter because the next reactor handles it. Wait, let's remove the pause I've added. Okay. Here, where can I put the pause? Don't really have a good place to put the pause, except maybe here. Blue does the inputs and then sync, and when it's not sigma it goes left, when it's sigma it goes right. So 25 being not sigma is grabbed and dropped down. .25 grabbed and dropped down, and bonded, and basically they create a stick of, we know it's not only 25, sometimes it's 24, but that currently doesn't really matter. And is it certain that it doesn't reach the end of the reactor with this stick? I'm pretty sure it's certain because would it be possible to somehow I guess if your input file is only 50s, no, it's certain because you bond anything to 109 and then you have 9 output. So at most you get 225s from here, and the remainder can have the remainder also gets here, right? Yeah, the remainder is also dropped here. So you could theoretically get 8 25s from the 200, these 8, and then from the remainder you can get 2 more. You can't have an input of exactly 300 because the rule says that the inputs are a maximum, are smaller than 300, so a maximum of 299. Actually, let's see how it handles, because this creates The sum of the first input is, I don't remember, but I've sent it in this Discord chat. Just a second. Let's search for some. Okay, so the first input is 278. The third input is 295, so it should create if you have an input with a sum of exactly 218 plus 50, so 268, I think 268 would crash it, because then the 50 would get split twice here and added to the 8 from the 200. These 8. But since it also grabs 24, so 267 would also do it. Well, people asked me what would I do if we've noticed something like this, that's an edge case that couldn't be handled. And my final ruling was that if the creators didn't notice and I didn't notice and it wasn't something really obvious, then it's still valid. So this solution should still be valid, I think. Final ruling. Either way, except for cases of two particular sums, you get a row of maximum of 9 atoms here. And all the hydrogen gets stolen by the blue Waldo. Let's speed it up a bit. When the blue Waldo reaches 25, it drops it here, so you actually get a drop of, you actually output the 25 before we start handling this. And once you output at least 125, you take the rest of this and also drop it here. If it was 24, then it wouldn't come here, and we'll see in a bit what happens. Blue continues handling okay, so maybe it doesn't crash because if it reaches 8, it reaches 8 from the first 200 and then it outputs it before it manages to crash. Yeah. Okay, let's have a look at other scenarios here. Okay, we've inputted 49 in the bottom in this place, and then split it because there's a splitter here, and we get 25 and 24, which also gets added to this stick. And then later, if you have 24, then it gets outputted to the top reactor instead of the bottom reactor. So the bottom reactor is only 25. I think this is all the scenarios. Yep. So 25s get dropped here. Here we get 24 or anything that didn't add up to 25, like for example these three here. Which gets dropped here once it senses the sigmas. Okay, so this reactor, which gets 24 and a remainder, let's cheat a bit and put pause here and remove this pause, these pauses. And also pause here. So the first time we only got 3 and then immediately got the sigmas, so the 3 just gets dropped out and outputted. YellowBunny says ideally all the 25 yum created from the 100 yum wouldn't even touch those 2 reactors. The problem is just that they need a 4 stick of sigma because I designed them for a different solution and had no time for a redesign. Ah, I see. Okay, wait, so we've missed a bit. The lithium gets dropped out, then 9 gets 1 split out of it, so that you can fuse the 24 into with a 1. So basically you have the first atom you get is some remainder, and all the atoms you get afterward will be 24 or sigma, which signals the end. So every time you get 24, you take whatever you have, split one out of it, and fuse to the 24. If you don't have any remainder, or you're out of remainder, let's wait if we can see something like this. 19, 19, 16, nope. 17, 21, 3, but not enough sigmas, not enough 24. I'm not sure we'll actually see this case, but it's possible that you're out of the remainder and you're only left with 24, and then you start splitting the 24 out to create 25. Eventually all you're left with is the 25s you outputted and the remainder and sigma. So all of your atomic mass is now split to 25 and the remainder. These two streams get merged. In this reactor. Let's actually go to the beginning and is there a pause somewhere? Yep, there's pause here and here. No, sorry. They get merged. Here. You just any 25 you get is outputted straight away. Any sigma, when you get sigma, you go to the second input, which you move until you get sigma and bond it. Then this reactor, all it does is, let's take this out, put it here. Any 24 is bonded here. Once you reach 4 25s, you blind grab and drop it a row below. Basically printing, standard printer. Once you get the sigmas, you go up, and blue also waited on a sigma. Blue here has this comb shape so that it can grab whatever the lowest rightmost atom is. Which turns out to be here in the case of 3 full rows. And the rightmost atom gets bonded to the sigma and dropped right way around here. And they also use the provided verifier reactor. Let's remove the pause here. Let's undo all of the pauses I did so that we've seen this reactor, it's the same, exact same. Let's run it to completion. That was nearly 99,000 cycles with just 9,208 piped molecules, which is the fewest piped molecules we've had. A final metric score of 9,450,000 ish, with a final 6.8 points out of 14. In second place, we have ToughThought with target range 1325. Now this solution is a lot simpler. In fact, it's 173 less symbols. Let's have a look. This is the most complicated first reactor we've seen. Basically what it does is it splits off each atom out of the file, and then whatever is taken is split, and if it's greater than 50 or 50, then it's handled specially. In this case it's not, but if it's less than if it's 100 or less, it's only split twice, but if it's more than 100, it's split 3 times. Let's see it with the next. Let's put a pause here. No. Where are the big molecules? Here. So, since you get 51 out of the split, you sense it, and you know to split the output again. And you know to split this again. Basically what you get for the second output is only atoms between 13 and 50. And 49, sorry, you don't even get 50. Followed by the sigma stick. This flip-flop counter here, it counts to 101 because if you stop handling inputs after the needed 100 outputs, you save a few piped molecules. It's only 6 piped molecules according to ToughThought, so really not anyway significant in any way, but an optimization is an optimization, and I didn't say that your solution had to run forever. So the second reactor gets 13 to 49, and it has a lot of sensing. Basically, if the first atom is 25, it gets outputted to omega immediately. If the second atom, it always comes in pairs, the atoms from the split. So you either have 2 atoms which are the same, or first the smaller atom and then an atom which is 1 bigger than it. The first atom, let's put pause here. First atom, if it's 25, it gets outputted. Since it's not, it gets split. This huge amount of sensors, what they do is if you get atoms 17 to 8 to 28, they are split 3 times. 13 to 16 are split only twice, mainly to speed up the solution. It could have worked with splitting everything 3 times, like Lazy Comet did, but if you special case it so that you don't get too small an atom, then it's faster. This is not reactor 3? Yeah, this is reactor 2, sorry. Reactor 2 yeah, sorry, I've read ahead a bit. If you get 25, it gets okay, yeah. If you get 25, it gets outputted to omega. If you don't get 25, then you know that the second atom you get is always equal or 1 greater than the first atom you got. The reactor sends some wait. Okay, so the reactor sends any atom between 13 and 25 out of the omega output. Wait. So the first atom you get, if it's 13 to 25, it gets sent to the omega output, and then the second atom you get gets sent to the psi output to get turned into ground out into H. So the bottom output will be fused up to 25, and you always have enough H to fuse up to it because you send the bigger part to the psi. If you get something which is smaller than 25. Blue arrow on C6. C6, that's right. If you get between 26 to 28, it gets split, and then it's as if you got 2 atoms. Like instead of getting the first atom being outputted to omega and the second to psi, it just gets the split atom to omega and then the rest to psi. Actually, it's not outputted directly to psi. It's put on the fuser to save some piped molecules, which again maybe saved 50 piped molecules, so it isn't that significant, but still it's a small save. So if you get 26, it gets split with 1/2 being put on the fuser, 1/2 outputted to omega, and then the next time you get something that needs to be outputted to psi, like with 27 that you split, it gets fused and then sent to omega. Because whatever you get out of psi gets ground out to hydrogen anyway. So it doesn't matter if it's 13 and 14, 13 and 13, or 26. Either way, in the bottom reactor you always have between 13 and 25, and you always have enough hydrogen to supplement them to 25. All of these reactors, they don't sense for different stuff, it's just pathing. So if you have, for example, 17, then it goes up and up again instead of down here. Let's watch a few more cases. If you get something which is bigger than... Okay, so 25 to 28, 26 to 28 get special cased because they give 13 and 14, which also count for... I'm not sure why they're special cased. (26 to 28). Why not just split it and give half to omega and half to psi? Why special case 25 to 28 compared to, say, 36 or 37? Waiting for ToughThought to type. greater than 32 would give 2 greater result after fusion. It would give 16 or larger, but something like 30 would also give 15, 15, and then what? If it is 17 and 17, say, the fusion would be 34, which wouldn't be split enough in subsequent reactors. So subsequent reactors have to get a maximum of 16 because they need to be split a certain amount of times. Yeah, okay. So basically you want to take 25 out, but then 26 to 28 you want to special 26 to 32 you want a special case, but you didn't have room to special case all the way to 32, so we only special cased 26 to 28 because 29 to 32 don't actually appear in the given puzzle. They could technically appear, but then all that happens is they get split a bit more, so it still works. Okay, I fully understand now. So this reactor receives this reactor first receives anywhere between 13 to 28, but probably not 25 because all the 25s were stolen. 17 to 28 gets split 3 times, and 13 to 16 gets split only twice, so that you get eventually anywhere between 2 and 4. Let's put a pause. There is no good place to put a pause. Let's do something weird here and do this. Sorry for ruining your solution. Let's remove the pause here. Okay. So 26 needs to be split 3 times, so it goes up and then split once, split a second time with red handling the second time, and then the remainder is split again twice. 13, however, goes down, so it's only split twice. 20 goes up, and the sigma just gets outputted. 13 goes down, 16 also goes down. And they're split twice. Okay, let's undo all of the changes I did. What did I do? With here. Next up, this reactor gets anywhere between 2 and 4, so all you need to do is split twice and you get hydrogen. Let's put pause here. Split once, grab upward or move it out of the way, split twice and output. Drop an output, split an output. It's a lot simpler when you only need to split it twice instead of 3 times like the previous reactors. Then this reactor takes the 25 and whatever else you've got, and wait, let's remove this pause, put a pause here. You take the atom. If it's 25 you just take it, if it's not 25 you input until you fuse into it until it's 25. Pretty simple, and you're guaranteed to have enough hydrogen. Once you get to the sigma, then all you have to do is handle the rest of your hydrogen. So the sigma is put out of the way, and then red starts fusing hydrogen into 25 as well. Until again you reach the sigma. Let's delete it and put here a pause. Once you reach the sigma, you have all of your 25s, you have the remainder, and you have 4 sigma, and you start again. This reactor, let's again ruin a bit your solution. It has plenty of time because the previous reactors are all slow, so it can do big loops to create the final output. Does a blind grab to continue with a printer. Very standard approach. Let's remove this. Once you input the sigma, you know that you've reached the end of the file. And this little loop makes sure that you're holding the rightmost edge of the file. Let's watch it again. if this is holding something and there's still a row below it, it must be 25. So it drops it and grabs the next atom. If there's still a row below it, drop again, grab the next row. So now we know we are holding the first row. Ah, this is a close shave between these two. Wait, I want to see how close it is. Whew. Okay. Then it's just a matter of bonding it together and outputting the finished file. Let's undo everything and watch it run. This is the verification reactor, and it's the given reactor. 53,250 cycles with 16,000 piped molecules for a final metric of 6,800,000 and a final 9.6 points. And finally, this has been a long stream. We've got Team Science in first place. Congratulations, Team Science. Team Science is Rexkix, gggol, and Britboy. With their solution, Heavy Stream V48. They've worked a lot on this. They've submitted 48 solutions. They probably had more. Now, let's have a look at this. So, first reactor is very simple. It has a slight difference compared to what ToughThought did, which is they have a single more fuse. This doesn't do anything if it doesn't fuse, but if it does fuse, it probably saves some cycle later. But except for that, it's very simple. Bond out anything to the same place and drop the sigmas. Note here that instead of waiting for the input and then syncing, they have read on a delay, which saves them one cycle. This single cycle is very important, or they wouldn't have won first place. No, just kidding. Still, if there's room to optimize, optimizing is good. So, like ToughThought, they make they split here each atom twice, so not like ToughThought, sorry. Splitting each atom twice guarantees having atoms between 7 and 28. They also have here a small bond thing going because they had wait, let's put they had the extra bonder, so bonds to grab more from the input. I guess it saves some cycles. And output the sigma. This reactor gets 7 to 28. Let's remove this. And according to the write-up, if it's 26 to 28, they split it 3 times and fuse. Let's wait for it actually. Let's put a pause. Where's the input? Here. Let's put a pause here. No, there's also an input. Ah, it's a single time input, so it doesn't matter. So, you grab an input. If it's smaller than 25 or 25, it gets outputted once to omega, once to psi, alternating. And again, all the atoms come in pairs, so it's guaranteed that that they have, if one stream goes to hydrogen grinding, it's guaranteed they have enough hydrogen later to fuse. If they receive something like 26 or 27, then instead of splitting it 3 times like big atoms, what they do is they split it 3 times and fuse 2 times to remove 1 lithium out of it. And then the remainder gets outputted to the psi output. So basically, instead of splitting, having, like ToughThought did, instead of taking the 27 and splitting it 14, 13, and 13 gets ground to hydrogen, they split it 24, 3, and then only the 3 gets ground down to hydrogen, and they save a lot of cycles this way. Again, 26, they remove 3 out of it and drop the 23 up. If they receive anything bigger than... No, they can't receive anything bigger than 28 because they've split everything 3 times. So yeah, anything smaller than 25 gets split into the 2 reactors. One, it's ground down to hydrogen. 25 exactly gets outputted to psi, and anything bigger than 25 gets 3 taken out of it, which is then ground down to hydrogen, and the rest will be later fused up to 25. My guess is this is where the big difference between ToughThought and Team Science had the big difference in the cycle count. Yeah, as I've said, all the atoms come in in pairs of either the same atom or one atom bigger than the second, and you can know for certain actually, if you get something like 7, which is the lowest you can get, if all you had are 26s, you get 26, you get 7 and 6. Because in the first reactor it gets split down 3 times, so 26 split down 2 times, sorry, so 26 gets split to 13, gets split to 7, then 7 gets sent up and 6 down. It won't be enough hydrogen later to fuse it up to 25. Let's see how they handle the third input, which, should I remind you, is, wait, let's remove the pause here, go here, put the pause here. Here, the third input is a lot of small atoms. That get split 3 times each. 2 times each, sorry. Okay, so 25 is outputted straight away. 26 is special cased, 26 again. How is this all 26 and 27s? Ah, there's a fuse here that I missed. Okay. The pairs here. Yeah. The pairs here come if together they can fuse, then yeah. Okay, so you're bound to only handle big atoms, and if you're handling small atoms, they won't be in groups of 2. So here we have 30 and 32, which get fused together. Okay, I've tried to pick it to see if it's wrong, and they've thought of it. So we've seen this reactor. Next up is we've said that this gets ground to hydrogen. So let's see how they grind everything to hydrogen. Here they get a maximum of 12, I think, which means they need to split stuff 4 times. So split once, drop. This is just split twice everything and drop, and then again split twice. This is two are basically the same reactor, except they special handle 9 for some reason. (24) 24 is the maximum that can get here. Okay, yeah. I didn't remove any fuse command. Rexkix is asking gggol. Yeah, the fuse command is here in R1. I did? I undid everything and there was fuse here from the beginning. I didn't put it here. I haven't removed it. Anyway, so this is 2 reactors in a row to create hydrogen, which, even though it's more piped molecules, it's much faster than doing everything in a single reactor. So everything is split. In this reactor everything is split twice, and then in this reactor everything is split twice again, and then twice again. Okay. No, and then one final time. So 5 splits makes anything below 64, which everything is below 64, gets down to hydrogen. And once they reach sigma, it's just outputted without accidentally splitting it. This reactor, let's go back to here. So this was ground down to hydrogen. This now takes the hydrogen from the bottom pipeline, and let's put pause here. Blue is stuck in a fuse loop until it reaches 25. This is how you... I can't move it. Sure, whatever, let's put pause here. Yeah. This is the fastest way to do input until you send something. Simple 2-cycle loop. And yeah, because it's 2-cycle loop, it's sensitive to parity. So moving the beta 1 is bad. 25s gets bonded into a stick, which then blue blind grabs and outputs. Once you reach sigma, it means that now you only have hydrogen left, and now blue handles the only hydrogen left, this time with a 4-cycle loop instead of a 2-cycle loop. Because you need to both sense for 25 and sense for sigma, so you can't have a 2-cycle loop. And once you get sigma, you output everything and start again. This reactor is very simple. It takes the sticks of input and bonds them, and then bonds it to the... I can't move it again because of the parity. Let's put pause here and here, and remove this pause. It takes a stick of 25 and bonds everything together. Blue can't stall on the sensor here because it's not near a wall. So luckily they're certain that because this is also on a 2-cycle loops, then it's always in the same cycle parity that they input something. Or actually it doesn't matter because you input and then you have another cycle where red also senses. You could have saved some symbols by doing it this way. You would have saved a single symbol, but whatever. And they're the only one, except for the fun solution, that changed the verifier reactor. By outputting it with the header on the right, it's a lot easier to gggol says, just saw another way to save 3 cycles, output in the omega zone. Here. Yeah, just output it in the omega zone. Huh. Okay, so here let's put pause. Actually, now I can move it. Let's put pause here. Because the file is on its side, it's a lot easier to bring it up and bond and fuse everything into it. Which also saved like maybe 4 cycles. Let's see the final cycle count. You can tell how faster it is by the fact that this is the only solution that I'm not editing the final running to the end. 35,000 cycles and only 475 symbols, which is the lowest we've had. Good job, Team Science. We don't have any more fun solutions because we've shown the fun solutions beforehand. So that's it for this round. See you all in 2 weeks.